Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar, and we are about to start. Just some ground rules. Um, Please address your questions at any time during the webinar. It will be addressed by our speakers as and when it is relevant. You will be muted and your video will be off for the duration of the webinar, and this webinar is recorded for quality purposes. And now I'll hand over the time to uh, Board of Director at SICCI, Mr. Parthiban, for our opening address. Thank you.
Hello everyone and a very good afternoon. Welcome to Non-Traditional Financing Options for Businesses in the New Normal, a collaborative webinar between the Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, SICCI and CardUp. We are also privileged to have Visa with us today to speak more on alternative financing. It is my pleasure to open this webinar as it is a topic which will be very useful for businesses, especially so during this challenging period. At this point, I would like to thank our chairman, Dr. T. Chandru, my fellow board directors, our CEO, Mr. Johnson Paul, our esteemed speakers, Ms. Nicki Ramsay and Mr. Vikram Kshettry, the staff of CardUp, and our secretariat staffs. For those who may be unaware, SICCI has served the needs of local Indian businesses and the business community at large since 1924. SICCI strives to give its members a competitive edge in the global market by providing them with diverse insights, connections, and support services. These include trade matching, job matching, business advisory, networking sessions, seminars, and skills training. SICCI aims to be the gateway of opportunity for Indian businesses in Singapore, helping both homegrown and international companies realize their full potential. Our SME Center has customized information services for SMEs. SICCI has also established an international business division to serve the globalization needs of local companies. With such services, SICCI hopes to further its members' interests. As the title of today's webinar suggests, this discussion is centered around non-traditional financing options for businesses. Our speakers today will provide you valuable insights on this subject matter and how businesses can benefit in many ways by using this financing option, especially in areas of managing cash flows. At this juncture, I would also like to touch briefly on traditional financing options where SICCI has been constantly providing various support initiatives for SMEs. Broadly speaking, under the category of traditional financing options, we have the usual loans and financing schemes offered by the major banks operating in Singapore. We also have various grants offered by government agencies such as Enterprise Singapore, ESG. For those who are interested to know more about these financing options, you may approach our SICCI SME Center for more details. You may call us or write to us at SICCI, SICCI@sicci.com. In early October, SICCI hosted a joint webinar with Maybank on a topic called How to Successfully Secure Bank Loans. This webinar focused on the traditional financing options available to businesses. I believe as the business community moves towards what we call the new normal and enters a phase of hopeful recovery, information on the variety of available financing options will be invaluable. Businesses must find ways to adapt to changing market situations and must try to support each other as much as possible. That is why we speak in terms of the business community. Only together can we move forward and overcome the challenges from COVID-19. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our esteemed speakers for today's webinar. Firstly, we have Ms. Nicki Ramsay as our primary speaker. She is the founder and CEO of CardUp, a fast-growing card enablement platform based in Singapore. An expert in the payments industry, Ms. Ramsay has built digital payments products and previously held various leadership roles for American Express across both Asia, Pacific, and Europe. We also have our guest speaker, Mr. Vikram Kshettry. He is the head of B2B partnerships for APAC at Visa. He is responsible for partnerships with fintech and technology firms in Asia Pacific to help Visa and Visa clients deliver innovative B2B payment solutions in our markets. Mr. Kshettry joined Visa in 2008 and previously worked with ABN AMRO Bank in Hong Kong and India. I hope the session will be benefit will benefit all of you. With that, I would like to hand over the time to Ms. Ramsay. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks very much for the introduction, and hi everyone. Thank you for joining the call. I'm going to cover some data and insights that we're seeing in this current environment, and also share a little bit more about both how Visa and CardUp are working together and more on CardUp's solutions. And we have about an hour in total, about 45 minutes remaining today. On my side, I'm just sharing some slides, which I hope you're all able to see. So the topic of today, as shared, is non-traditional financing options for businesses in the new normal. And I think, the ever-evolving pandemic situation has continued to put all of us, both individually, but also, our businesses around the world in unprecedented times. And I think all industries have had to go through immense change, although I would say that not all have experienced negative impact. I think for industries that have done well, we've heard stories of how companies producing medical equipment, for example, sanitizers and so on, are thriving in this new normal. In addition, I would say sectors such as logistics, where we've seen a huge increase in demand as they speed up to support the boom in e-commerce, and of course teleconferencing tools. We're all on Zoom today, and Zoom has seen huge growth rates over the last 6 months. In fact, the data that they've shared publicly shows that 10 million daily active users were using Zoom prior to the pandemic, which has skyrocketed to over 300 million this year alone. However, in most industries, whether we're talking about F&B, hospitality, and so on, of course, there has been an impact, and we've undergone fundamental change. And in some data that was recently released by Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses, they shared that only relatively few businesses are thriving in this post-pandemic world. So about 21% was reported there. And Visa has dived sort of deeper into these trends and commissioned a study of over 2,000 businesses in 8 markets. And I'm going to pass to Vikram to sort of share some of the key insights that study revealed, and we'll discuss a few of the trends that we're seeing. So Vikram, over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Can you hear me? Am I coming through loud?
Yeah, very clearly.
Okay,
yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So thank you very much, Mr. Parthiban, Nikki, for the opportunity to join you in this webinar. I think it's really important that at this point we provide all businesses, small or large, a variety of options. So as Mr. Parthiban said, there was your conference with Maybank and accessing bank loans. That still is a very important part of how businesses are going to finance themselves. But in this era of innovation, I think there are more methods that you need to be aware of, and that's what Nikki and I are trying to do. So, as Nikki mentioned, and I guess as everybody would agree, 2020 has been an unprecedented year. I've never been away from office for so long. I'm still working from home, as you can see. And, we are going to be going through dramatic changes. Everybody in our community, our cardholders, our merchants, issuers, acquirers, fintech partners, everybody's seeing a lot of changes in their day-to-day life. And we will have to come to terms with these changes. And I really hope that we all emerge from this stronger and in good health and vigor. So the study that Nikki was referring to, so Visa did a back to business study. This was done in the June-July timeframe. It talked to 2,000 businesses and 4,500 consumers in over 8 markets. As you know, Visa is a firm which specializes in payments. We are the world's largest payment network. And we a key focus of our study was on the changes that, in this new post-pandemic world, what will be the impact of payments. So first of all, nobody's alone in this whole journey. We are all experiencing change. Some in a more, are experiencing a lot more than the others. But clearly, what we see is that what we heard back from the businesses, that 67% of the businesses are trying new approaches to keep their businesses on track. And this has not been very easy. 78% of the consumers have changed the ways in which they make payments. And these have kind of moved away even in more traditional economies for example, Japan and the others, where paper was a lot more used, paper money and checks and the others, we have seen a very swift movement to digital payments. These changes, even though they have occurred in a relatively short period of time, are going to be long-lasting. When anybody goes through a period of change over 6 months, it forms a habit. And we have crossed that limit, and now we are seeing that, at least even in Singapore, it's very clear, is that digital payments are here to stay. Sorry, I've just got some notes here. While we have been working remotely, payments have moved away. The switch to digital payments has not come through a government directive. It's largely come through, one, people wanting to be more secure and safe, and secondly, people being very clear about being able to transact online. And that has been a big driver for change that we have seen. We've also seen that, we have seen businesses especially get to a digital-first mindset. And what this means is that 28% of businesses have tried digital advertising, and 27% have sold products and services online, which is, quite a change for most businesses. And it's something that we will see probably accelerate in the future as well. In Singapore, as we have all seen, food and beverage industry has adopted to delivery at home, takeaways, all in a very significant way. And for Visa, we have helped our consumers who hold Visa cards make these payments now much more easily and much more securely. And last, what we hear in our study is that last but not the least, big businesses are remaining optimistic about the future. And as Visa, we remain optimistic about our community. We have launched some campaigns. You might have seen some in the local social media. Our key campaign was Where You Shop Matters, which has been a theme that we have run across multiple markets, and which has kind of tried to promote local merchants, local businesses for global customers. So this is something that we are doing today. And as we see on the screen here, even though the revenue may not be the same as it is, the big concern is all about attracting new business. It's all focusing on growth and recovery. And there is also the fact that businesses have to right size, businesses have to manage their bottom line better. And one of the key costs that we know that in a market like Singapore has been around salary. So improving your business processes so that you can do more with less is probably the key feedback that we're getting from our research. Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, Vikram. Yeah, and I think with that and those findings, I think the first question that we really wanted to spend some time discussing is, given the impact, to all businesses to most businesses this year, what are some of the cash flow considerations that every business needs to know to help them through the pandemic?
Yeah. So what we're seeing this as a trend in our industry, and I guess, it'll be good to get some feedback from the audience as well. The first one is planning about recovery, planning for the recovery that is round the corner. We have seen the launch of some, or the imminent launch of vaccines. We have seen, or we were seeing till last week, some of the trade corridors opening up, travel opening up. But more importantly, I think the planning for the recovery is going to be front of center or front of mind for a lot of our business in Singapore today. And as they are planning for recovery, I think the key aspect here is you have to plan for this over the long term, because it is, whether we like it or not, this has had a major, means our economy has got impacted, and it'll take a fairly long period of time to recover. So in this long recovery that you are now looking at, the key requirement is that your business remains well-funded and resilient to, it may not be a secular path to recovery. It might be some short dips. We have seen that in some of the other markets as well, where cases have reoccurred, and now second lockdown, third lockdowns are reoccurring. So being resilient and planning for the future with your cash flow is quite important. The next point around the cash flow considerations for the pandemic is going to be around getting more digital in your collections and payments. So what do I mean by this? today your customers are going to be looking at, paying you, even if it's an invoice, they would like to pay you using their, their bank account, their card, and in some manner, do this electronically, probably over a platform. And for you, it means that as the payments come in, you have to reconcile yourselves. And then when you want to pay your suppliers, when you want to pay your employees and the others, again, moving to a more digital form factor is going to be quite, is very much required. So there, my advice would be to take the help of, innovative fintechs like CardUp, who are ready there to meet your company's needs, whether it be for collections or for disbursals. And these are going to be something that we have found that we found in our study that 71% of the businesses mentioned that their community is helping them. So the role of, the chambers of commerce, the roles of our government in helping us is extremely important here again. And this is going to be quite key as you consider what you need to be prepared for for the coming period. None of these changes in business model is going to come without risk. We see that as digital payments get more, commonplace, there are concerns that some of the transactors here are either not vigilant enough, or they are not, or they might be susceptible to scams and frauds. So there again, we believe that you are very likely, it's going to be quite key for you to understand the help that you can get from players like CardUp, who are there and can provide you with sophisticated tools for managing your risks. So I think we need to go to the next slide, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Sure.
I was just referring to some of these in what I've spoken through so far. Be aware of the risks in digital commerce. 53% of the businesses are likely to purchase fraud management solutions. So make sure that as you are opening up and engaging with your employees or with your partners, suppliers or buyers more digitally, make sure that you have the right tools. If you see some of the major platforms like Zoom and Teams and the others, they have greatly enhanced the security on their platforms, and your customers are expecting you to do the same. So once again here, players, companies like CardUp can support you in managing these risks. The most valuable piece of advice that I would have is that look at alternate sources of financing. So leverage whatever lines of credit that you have. And we see this particularly in Singapore, where a lot of businesses and individuals have credit cards which may have, slightly large lines or generous lines. And these are something which you can keep and use as you are now looking to manage through a period of, an extended period of recovery or creating resiliency within your businesses. So again, platforms like CardUp can help you use these lines in a manner that can help your working capital expand, make sure that your supply chain is well funded, make sure that your suppliers stay in business and are able to support you. So Nikki will explain this as we go along.
Yeah, thanks for that, Vikram. I was going to say, you've referenced CardUp obviously a couple of times in that, and I can see we've got a question that's popped up from the attendees just asking what is CardUp. I just wanted to clarify that we will be spending some time on that to explain our solution in a little bit more detail towards the end of the discussion. But just to give a quick summary, we're a digital payments platform. So what we do is help businesses use an available credit line that most businesses actually have today, which is their credit card, whether that's a corporate card or a personal card, in order to improve their payment terms or essentially conserve their cash by shifting payments that you couldn't historically put onto the card line. And we have a two-sided platform, both for payables and receivables. So on the receiving side, we also help many businesses actually collect payments from their customers digitally. And I think, very much to the points Vikram was making, I think these kind of solutions and the shift that we've seen amongst our customer base to adopt digital solutions that not only help get revenue into the business faster in order to improve cash flow, but also might help finance teams work remotely in this sort of new norm that we find ourselves in, I think is absolutely kind of key to survival during these times. I think the other point just to add on to answer this question, is also whether you have any flexibility on supplier terms, particularly for receivables or some of the larger receivables, whether it's possible to, for example, give early payment discounts in order to get paid on time, because what we've seen, I think, very consistently, in so many sectors is just such a disruption end to end across the whole supply chain. So being more flexible and having conversations up front with your vendors or your suppliers, knowing that they're probably also impacted on, how do you best optimize that across your supply chain so that you're not the one, with the largest impact on your cash flow. So moving on a bit, just to talk more broadly about digital payments, Vikram, maybe you could just share some thoughts on how digital payments have become more relevant in society off the back of the changes that we've seen this year.
Sure. I think the big driver of the change in digital payments is the way that consumers are behaving. So from our study, we see that the consumers, and this is a large amorphous group, so whereas in the past, consumers in developed markets and consumers in emerging markets would have very differing requirements and would have differing views, we are seeing that this is all coming together. So we are seeing that, some very stark statistics and very kind of things that we would not have heard of earlier. That 56% of consumers are saying they will not shop at a store not offering contactless payments. Now, contactless payments, if people in Singapore would have seen over the years, have really gained currency. You are able to tap your phone, use your Apple Pay, Google Pay, and if you have, the Fitbit devices or Apple Watch and the others, they are all now become tools through which you can make a payment. In this pandemic, this has become even more stark, and it's spreading to more and more markets. I know a lot of the audience here have either business connections or families and the others back in India. Even the Reserve Bank of India, which had been consistently not very much in favor of contactless payments, this year has changed its stance and now has started to roll out. We've started to roll out contactless payments even in a market like India, which has been a huge change. So I think the consumer-led demand for change is something that businesses cannot ignore, because these consumers are going to determine how they want to pay you, and in a lot of cases, the businesses will have to adapt from that. The other piece around digital payments, as I mentioned earlier, is around being, and I think these are the statistics in Singapore that Nikki has just put up from the same study, which is all quite interesting. The other piece is all around gearing up to manage some level of vigilance which is required when you're dealing with contactless payments or when you're dealing with digital payments. And there again, working with secure networks like Visa or working with partners like CardUp is going to be quite key. You have to have trust in your business. Your customers must have trust in your business, and that's where you need the best partners that you can get. And finally, the big piece around digital payments is going to be the role of governments. Singapore government and the MAS have been leaders in this regard. They have been very, thought leaders in terms of promoting the benefits of digital payments all over the world. And now, as I mentioned earlier, we have seen businesses in a lot of other markets also, governments in a lot of other markets also step up and want to get, want to promote digital payments as well. So overall, we've reached, in some respects, a tipping point where digital payments, once they reach this point, then clearly it's going to be difficult to ignore. And at some point, it's going to be difficult not to adapt to them. Nikki, over to you.
Thanks.
Any points from your side?
I would probably just add on that, in addition to the push or the acceleration we've seen towards digital payments, I think it's also stemmed a bit broader than that, actually, to include, just the entire end-to-end finance process, which has had to evolve as well. So whether that's how finance teams are actually working together, in this sort of new norm, and with that comes all the points you just talked about around cybersecurity or keeping things secure when everyone's working, on the cloud and remotely from various different locations. And so I think, one of the things that we've seen or heard repeatedly from our customers is just how quickly they've had to adapt to that. And of course, that comes with its own set of challenges, because the technology is one thing, but it's also, helping upskill your teams and making sure that people are also ready, and able to adopt the new technical solutions. So, I think just to sum up some of the steps for businesses that we would advise, and some of the things that, indeed, that we at CardUp, as in terms of our own business, have done to ensure that we emerge stronger from the pandemic, and kind of being categorized into the three buckets that you see here. Of course, the first is to ensure survival. We've just been talking about the importance of cash flow and different solutions that could be used to improve short-term financing. We're fortunate in a market like Singapore that we have had some tremendous government support with programs like the Job Support Scheme that all businesses have been able to benefit from. But of course, that's only short-term survival. At the same time, we need to be planning for the long term. And I think one of the ways we did this at CardUp is by looking at or sort of laying out a 4-step framework. The first was, people first, making sure that under that category of survival, you need to ensure that the team is safe and able to, work effectively remotely or in this new way. The second is around building resilience. It's really scenario planning, right? Explore every possible avenue, that could be. There's so much uncertainty, and things can change so rapidly. I think we just saw that happening yesterday with the long-awaited travel bubble between Singapore and Hong Kong, which got changed at the last minute, and so things can really just within 24 hours change. And so we did really in-depth scenario planning in order to see what would be the action that we would take if revenues were impacted by a certain amount, and then how would we preserve capital in these different scenarios. And then finally, accelerating growth. I think this is also a time to just relook at our business plans, relook at your product mix, relook at the vendors you're working with, and really future-proof the business for this new digital way of working. And that includes, as I said earlier, I think also ensuring that the team and staff are able to adopt these solutions. And again, there are government programs that can help with that, such as the Jobs Growth Scheme, which very much supports making sure that people are trained and up to speed when adopting new technical solutions. So the final question we wanted to discuss, and then I was going to share a little bit about CardUp and some of the customers that maybe customer case study of how we work with businesses today. Before we come on to that, I think Vikram, interested to hear a little bit about what Visa is doing to work with fintechs, and not just CardUp. I know you work with many brands across the region, but how is this coming together in order to benefit businesses in the region?
Sure. Even before the COVID crisis, we had seen that a lot of businesses were looking to simplify the way, improve processes in their payables operation. And, our understanding was, and our understanding still is, that, using Visa cards to make payments to your suppliers would probably help you, one, improve the process, improve your working capital, and save a lot of cost and time. But a lot of your suppliers were not going to accept cards, were not ready to accept cards. And even if they wanted to, there was in some cases a technology challenge for them to make the jump. So in our world, that's where CardUp comes in. CardUp acts as partnering with Visa, partnering with some of Visa's clients, which would be any of the key banks in Singapore and around the world. They can ensure that when a business wants to make payments to its supplier, they can always use their Visa card to do that. This whole relationship is very mutually beneficial. So for us as Visa, we are ensuring that our cardholders are able to make payments to any supplier or any service provider that they want to make a payment to. while from the CardUp perspective, they are working with Visa, and we are able to guide them on the most secure way in which digital payments can be processed, and that is a benefit that they get from us. Plus, we have a big ecosystem of Visa issuers in every market, and that's where we are partnering with CardUp for bringing the best to our clients as well. And most importantly, what does this mean for a business like yourself? For a business like yourself, what this means is that you are getting some of the best payment services with a brand that you recognize on the street, irrespective of whether you want to collect your payments faster or make a payment to your supplier, either in Singapore or overseas. You can now work with CardUp and Visa to make that happen. Yeah, that's what we see about the relationship.
Thanks, Vikram. So just to kind of follow on and provide a bit more color on our solution. As Vikram shared, our platform, our online payments platform enables businesses to maximize the benefits of credit card. And we do that by enabling a business to make use of an available credit line, which, for example, on a Visa corporate card that your business might already hold today, to pay suppliers that do not accept card payments. So you can really think of us as a middleman that comes sort of in the gap between yourselves as a business owner or a finance head owning a corporate card today and your end supplier or recipient that doesn't take card payments. So you can see here a few examples of the types of sectors we work with. I would say that we work with over 40 different industries. So, we can support a wide range of businesses, but a couple of use cases we see include, for example, the owner of an F&B chain. They want to be able to use the credit card to pay perhaps their rent or their invoices, because really in this environment, cash flow is being managed month to month, and being able to make use of an available credit limit can extend their payables for up to 55 or 58 days, so nearly 2 months, interest-free. And in that way, you're able to effectively conserve your cash on hand and hold on. Your supplier gets paid instantly, but you get to pay off that credit card bill up to 2 months later. In addition, CardUp doesn't just benefit the payer. For the recipient, there are some distinct benefits too, because they get to offer their customer the option of a credit card payment without actually needing to contract with a bank or having any kind of payment terminal or payment gateway, because CardUp provides you as the receiver with a unique payment link that you can put on an invoice or your website, send to customers, and collect your revenue faster. We support domestic payments here in Singapore, but also international. So if you have vendors that you're paying cross-border, you can also set those up on our platform. And the real difference here versus another remittance solution that you may be using today is the fact that the source of funds is the credit card. So again, you get to have that cash flow benefit on all of these transactions, regardless of where your end recipient is located, because we pay out to about 80 countries worldwide. And just to break it down a little bit, businesses, as many of you might be already aware, are able to access corporate cards from the bank, but these are traditionally used often for travel expenses or entertainment. And that may actually mean that, what we see very regularly is actually about 90% of our customers that have 75% or more of their credit card line completely underutilized on a monthly basis. So you're sitting on a pre-approved line of credit that can be now used for any types of accounts payable, expense, in order to increase your working capital and improve your cash flow. The platform's accessed via a simple web application, and it's free to sign up. So there's no kind of commitment up front, and you can really log in and take a look around both our payables and receivables modules. We also have technology that helps digitize your invoice processing. And what I mean by that is that you can upload any invoice into our system, and we will actually, the technology will extract the information directly from the invoice and create digital payment lines. And in this way, CardUp helps you save time and also helps you manage your finance processes remotely. Just to share one example from one of our customers, Far Ocean Group. They're a provider of sort of integrated food solutions. They have many well-known brands across Singapore that offers a variety of products from meats to gourmet seafoods and multiple lines of businesses. And I think one of the most kind of striking impacts during the COVID-19 pandemic that they've seen is just how disrupted their domestic and global supply chains has been, which has obviously has a huge knock-on effect for their own operations and creates challenges when it comes to accurately managing cash flow overall. And they were able to use CardUp and their existing Visa corporate card to leverage their interest-free credit line that they had to push all of their supplier payments, just to give them that leeway or that room. Their suppliers get paid instantly. They get to pay off their credit card bill in a couple of months' time, whilst at the same time, really helping them digitize and automate their payments. And the team here, the team that you can see here, has shared a quote that they found this sort of platform, CardUp's platform, instrumental in allowing them to improve their efficiency of the operational procedures during this time and ultimately save cost, whilst at the same time improving their working capital. So you can see a summary of those benefits that are listed here. And I'll probably I think we're good on time, so I'll open it up as well to Q&A, so that if any of you today do have questions on our solution or would like any further information about some of the insights and data that Vikram shared, we'd be happy to take those questions and discuss further. Perhaps I can just get the help of one of the team to share any questions, if there are any coming through on the panel discussion. Just give it a few minutes.
I think one thing that might be helpful is an explanation how CardUp services might be more advantageous or different from those offered by various credit cards already available.
Sure. So I mean, just to clarify, the credit cards, we support any credit card. This is a card product that you as a business would already hold today. What we're helping with is the utilization of that card. In other words, helping you use that card for more types of expenses that you haven't historically been able to put on that card, and therefore, leveraging, as I said, that available credit line for that expense or for that payment. And I think one of the key benefits, maybe I won't compare it to other credit cards, because I think we can use any credit card, but what I will compare it to is perhaps other financing options that you're using today. And I think the benefit of using a Visa corporate card on CardUp's platform is that it's very flexible. It's instant. In other words, this is a pre-approved line. It's not something that you're having to apply for or even put down any collateral. And it's flexible. What I mean by that is that you really kind of use the amount that you need for each invoice. You're not having to take out a fixed term loan like you would perhaps with a bank, where you're taking a loan amount over a particular tenure. And therefore, and as I said before, it's free to sign up. We charge on a transactional basis. And that is, of course, to also cover certain costs associated with credit card processing, as well as obviously to ensure that our platform is kept safe and secure. But beyond that, there is no additional charges. So it's a very flexible and a quick way of accessing short-term credit.
Thank you, Nikki. I think we have another question for you. Can we use multiple credit cards to meet the amounts the company needs to pay There's a question from one of our attendees, Yvonne.
Yeah, absolutely, you can. You know, the way that we've designed the user experience on CardUp is very much, you know, like almost like an e-commerce experience where you have an account and you can load multiple cards. But what I would also suggest, maybe over and above that, is actually that, you know, if you do have a credit card, you know, a Visa corporate card, but perhaps the credit line isn't sufficient to cover the expenses that you wish to put on the card in a given month, you know, we can help you with that as well. We have, as Vikram mentioned, partnerships with all of the major card issuers or banks in the region, and those partnerships enable us to, you know, have a conversation to see if it's possible to also extend the credit line. We also work with other, you know, alternative financing platforms where there also may be the option or the opportunity to actually increase the line from that way as well, back onto your card in order to give you more available credit. So there are lots of different solutions there, and you know, the team at CardUp is, you know, very well versed on that, and very happy to discuss, you know, how we might be able to help broker some of those conversations in order to get the credit line that you need.
Thank you, Nikki. I think one more question we would have following that line of thought is, can personal credit cards be used for corporate expenses in this way as well?
We do see that sometimes if the corporate card line isn't sufficient, then yes, our platform does accept all cards on the Visa, Mastercard, American Express network. So we're sort of a network neutral platform, and again, much like an e-commerce experience, you can use multiple cards. But what I would say is that, you know, through the partnership with Visa, we have very preferential sort of rates and very good pricing on the Visa corporate card products. So again, and that's, you know, thanks to the frameworks and the collaboration of Visa to open up some of those better sort of commercial arrangements for you as a business. So again, yes, it's possible if you go onto our website, but at the same time, you know, I'm very happy to talk about the options that are available and see what we can do, and perhaps if we're able to help facilitate getting a larger credit line on a corporate card as well. I can see one other question come up as well around what's your qualifications criteria for business, so perhaps I can just take that one too. Actually, the qualification, I'm not sure if this question is in relation to, you know, getting a credit line. Just to be clear, we ourselves as CardUp are a payments platform, so we're not actually issuing the credit to you directly. So I can't talk too much about the criteria. Yes, okay, thanks. You said yes, getting a credit line. So that would actually be the criteria typically from the bank who is issuing you with the corporate card line or even a personal card line. So that would include criteria such as, you know, where your headquarters is located, what is, you know, the financial standing or financial history of your company, and you would be assessed by the bank in that way. From CardUp's perspective, we have some very simple criteria that we use to just onboard you. It's like a know your customer. Just because we are a payments platform, we of course have to ensure that we both comply with regulations, but also make sure that we can keep your account and payments secure. But that's not necessarily a qualification criteria. It's really more just some basic information on the company that we would take when you sign up. And so I can see a follow-on question to what I've just been talking about, which is asking about what financing we're providing directly. We are not, just to reiterate, we're not issuing a credit line directly. We're helping you make use of an available line that already exists today, which is the credit card line. And we're helping you use that line to pay an invoice or an expense, such as rent to a landlord, a supplier that doesn't accept credit card payments, or even a payroll transaction to pay your employees. And so it is actually an existing credit line today, which is also why I mentioned that actually can be a benefit, because there's no waiting for to get approved. There's no collateral required. This is often a line that many of you as business owners may already have assigned to the company. I hope that helps answer the question. But as I said, we can explain further amongst the team, and I can, yeah, great, thank you. But I can leave my email address as well. So if anyone would like to drop me a note, I'm happy to go into a little bit more detail on these various solutions and the partnerships that we have with the bank, the credit card banks.
Okay, thank you again, Nikki, and thank you, Vikram. And thank you everyone for attending the webinar. If you have any further questions, please direct them to us at sicci@sicci.com as well. And we'd also like to thank Mr. Parthiban, our director, for giving us the opening address and for opening this webinar. And we'd like to thank CardUp as well, and Mr. Vikram again from Visa for setting this up, for giving us these insights into non-traditional financing options. Thank you again, everyone, and have a good day.
Thanks very much for hosting this to the SICCI team. And I believe there will be a follow-up email sent to attendees, so we'll have some additional information if you would like to get in touch with either ourselves or Vikram.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
By the email right away.